Everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we are going to have a look at tomorrow's racing. Obviously, I can't show you the ratings. That's for premium and pro members only. They will be able to. They've already got a video where I've talked about a lot of these horses as well. So we can still talk about the racing, and I will also have a selection in the Derby itself. So we will start off with the Aston Martin Dash, the 5 furlong handicap for the older horses. I did like one in the 3-year-old only race, Yarsat, but he hasn't been declared, so I'm leaving that race alone. The 320, the Dash, the 5 furlong race. There's 2 in this race that I like. Well, there's actually 5 in this race that I like, but I'm hoping 2 of them might actually set it up for another one, or another couple. So the 5 that I like are Mountain Peak, who finished second in this race last year. Live in the Moment, who was 8th in this race last year. Mockatil, who won it 2 years ago and was 4th last year. Alligator Alley, who finished 4th over 6 furlongs last year. And Vintage Clarets, who was unlucky 2 runs ago, in my opinion. So let's talk about how I think the race is going to unfold. They always go ridiculously fast here, like really fast here, and I think that's key for the 2 that I like. From stall 13, Mountain Peak is going to jump out and go forward again like he did last year. Live in the Moment from stall 20 I think is also going to go forward down the near side rail, and I think we might end up getting 2 little groups and 2 races where Tom Marquand and Kieran O'Neill might be looking across at each other and thinking, I'm not in the lead, I need to go a bit faster. And they keep going faster and faster and probably go just slightly too fast. With that in mind, I think horses that are out the back and potentially struggling or travelling nicely could be the ones that pick up. And that would lead me to Vintage Clarets, Alligator Alley and Mockatil. Vintage Clarets doesn't have any form at the track. He's in stall 19. He got into trouble 2 runs ago. He might find he gets into trouble again. Mockatil won this race a couple of years ago off 82. Last year he ran again off 82 after taking into account the claim of the jockey, Harry Davis. This year, Mr. Bowen takes 7 off. His name is Sean Bowen, but it's not the Sean Bowen, the jumps jockey. He takes 7 off, which actually means he's effectively running off 78. So he's effectively running off a £4 lower mark than when 4th and a £4 lower mark than when winning it. What Ian Williams has to tell Mr. Bowen, Sean Bowen, is just keep riding. Just keep riding, keep riding, keep riding. Go for it. Just keep pushing him. He will be one of the first in trouble if he's not in trouble after a furlong. He will be struggling, being pushed along. The jockey must keep going and hope that Mockatil gets there in the end. He will not travel well at all, in my opinion, throughout this race, but he will get going late on. When they do come into the final furlong, if he wants to move slightly left, he can do, because he can win it by doing that. The horse sometimes drifts over to the left, and hopefully he can run past horses rather than into the back of horses. I think he's got a really good chance, Mockatil. As I said, Mountain Peak's in 13, Mockatil's in 11, Sampa's 7 in 12 is also likely to go forward. So you might get 2 of them going forward just to the right of Mockatil, and it won't take a lot for Sean to just very slightly move in behind those. They're going to be away. He's going to still be getting going when those 2 are away and gone, and hopefully Sean can just keep riding and Mockatil will pick up. The thing with Mockatil, he's clearly been laid out for this race. He's a 3-time winner at the course. He's had 1 run at Newmarket where he was rubbish. But because he was rubbish, he dropped from 86 down to 85. He's given himself, another pound off. And with Sean taking a whopping 7 off, he's only effectively running off 78. And I think he's got a great chance. The other horse that I do think also has a great chance is Alligator Alley, who does take his racing well. There's no issue with him running so often. If you watch his run last year at Epsom over 6 furlongs, the final race of Saturday. He actually hit the front and looked like he was going to win it under Tom Marquand before just getting tired late on. They're going to go like the Clappers again. I think he's going to get there. He's probably going to get there easier than Mockatil. It's whether he can hang on as well. Whereas I think he might end up there, maybe with half a furlong to go, and he's got to see if he can hang on. Whereas Mockatil's not going to get there until the line. But I'm hopeful of 2 big runs from both of those, from Alligator Alley and Mockatil, and they're not too bad at prices. Mockatil is 12s, Alligator Alley is 14s. He was 20s when I released this video for premium members. You can see Mountain Peak, there's a bit of money coming from Mountain Peak now. Unsurprising. He is £3 higher than when he was second. The thing with Mountain Peak, he's had 2 runs here, 1 good run and 1 terrible run. Which one was actually his form? When he was 16th, he was a bet. He was a decent price, to be honest. At 14s, he's not bad. Live in the Moment is down £3 for his 8th, and the thing with Live in the Moment, I highlighted him. Where did I highlight Live in the Moment? So I highlighted the Green Man a few weeks ago for this race at Doncaster. He won it, beating Live in the Moment. That's the key to Live in the Moment's form. He got beat by a horse that, in my opinion, had everything perfect for him at Doncaster. So Live in the Moment definitely has a chance. As I said, I liked Vintage Clarets before. I just wonder whether he might run into the back of another horse. Alligator Alley is down £2. He just needs a proper good sprint, and hopefully can pick up. And I highlighted Mockatil before. Ran moderately at Newmarket on his return. I think we'll get another run before the Epsom Dash. He doesn't. He comes straight here off 85. The £7 claim, I think, is the key for him. So my 2 in the race are going to be Mockatil, who can still get 12s, and Alligator Alley at 14s. Moving on to the 355. Now, I highlighted a couple of horses in this race, and there's one that I'm very keen on. And the horse that I'm very keen on, I'll talk about the other horse first. The horse that I think will run well is Forca Tamal, who finished 5th in a good handicap. I think it was a good handicap, that London Gold Cup. I think it will work out well. Bertinelli, Bold Planet, Exoplanet. I think Bold Act, Exoplanet, I think will all do well subsequently. I think Forca Tamal will run a nice race. There's a horse in this race, though, that could be incredibly well handicapped over this trip. And it has been seen in the market recently. It's Balance Play. Look at Balance Play's runs. He's had 3. I'm just refreshing the page to show you the current odds. You can currently get 6s. There's enough 6s to suggest he's 6s. As you know, I never talk about Bet365 prices. Why is he interesting? He's had 3 runs. He finished 4th over a mile, suggesting he wants mile plus. He then finished 3rd over 7, and then 2nd over 6. They're dropping him back in trip. That doesn't make sense for a horse that they thought needed at least a mile on debut, and he only went off 3 to 1 that day. With that in mind, now that he steps up from, he's going from 6 to 10. With that in mind, and the fact that Kudwa, who beat Balance Play, looked very impressive next time out at Newmarket, whilst the 3rd Greek Order has come out and won at Sandown. It's very good form, and I think he's now getting the trip he wants. Balance Play up over this trip, I think he's gonna go very, very close here. This looks like a bit of a plan from Rafe Beckett. I'm really quite keen on Balance Play, to be honest, in this race. He was a much bigger price when I highlighted him earlier this week for premium members. He's now down to 5s. I think he'll go off the favourite, and I think he'll be subject to a bit of a gamble, even from these current prices. So 6s, I think he'll go off 4s or shorter. Moving on to the 430. There's a horse in this race that I quite like, and it's Halifon. At a big price as well for Ian Williams. So Halifon is currently, whoops, wrong one. Here he is, 12s, 14s, 16s. He finished 2nd in this race last year, beaten a nose, beating Soapy Stevens. Now, Soapy Stevens went on to win 2 feature handicaps after that, and finished 4th, not beaten far by Trawlerman at Goodwood, who obviously he went on to win a Ebor. I think it was really good form. I think Ian's a trainer that likes to target races. He's back for this race. And to be fair to Halifon, he went and did some good stuff after that. He went to York and won a handicap. He went to Chester and won a handicap. It was good form. Last year he was running off 85. This year he's running off 89. But Ben Sanderson takes £3 off, which means he's effectively only running off 86. So he's only running off a £1 higher mark when both he and the third horse came out and won 2 races subsequently. I think that's a great shout from him, to be honest. Even Midnight's Legacy, to be fair, went and won a handicap hurdle afterwards. I think he's got a great chance here. I think normally Ian likes to send his horses to Chester, and I thought it was very interesting that he didn't send this one to Chester. He's looked after him with a race in mind. It's obviously not been Thirsk, and it's not been Ascot, because even I think he runs better than that if he'd been laid out for the race sort of thing. Both of those came on soft ground. He's back on better going. He's down to a winnable mark, or he will be once you take into account Ben's claim. I think he's a really big price at 14s and 16s. I'm quite keen on Halifon here to run a really big race. Moving on to the 505, there is a horse in this race that I like. Is there? There is. So, you've got to kind of trust me on this one, and it's not a way I normally like to look at the form. But I think there's a horse running in this race that they're back again because they thought it went wrong last year. Mr. Wagyu won the race last year. He won it off, what did he win it off? 94? So he's £2 higher than when winning. The horse I'm going to go for actually runs off the same mark. Let me just double check that. He does. He runs off the same mark as he ran off last year. And that's Many a Star down here. He ran off this mark last year, 87. And the jockey took an extra 7 off. So he was actually, you could say he was £7 lower. He went off the 100 to 30 favourite that day, Many a Star. And to be fair, he was there until the final furlong. And then just got tired. But I think it's really interesting that earlier on this week, they already had Holly Doyle booked. Holly Doyle was not actually riding, but Tom Marcondes, I imagine they just, Holly said, I can't ride, Tom can ride instead. I think that's a very interesting jockey booking. It's such a positive jockey booking, considering he went off the 100 to 30 favourite this time last year. Is Tom £7 better than Mohamed Tapdi? In my opinion, yes. Mohamed Tapdi claims 7, and I think he claims 7 for a reason. Tom's last 2 rides on this horse, a win at Goodwood, and then a second at Goodwood, only beaten half a length by 5,000 to 1. I think that's how you say it. That horse is quite good, the 5-year-old Frankel Gelding. I think this is a very interesting race from Many a Star. Normally, I would be almost shying away from this because of his such a poor run, but I think they've looked after him this year. They've turned up just to this race. They've come here fresh. He hasn't had a run this season. Last year, he'd already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs. He'd already had 5 runs. I think he might have been having too many runs too quickly that time. And I think this year they've looked after him. And I'm surprised he's 10s. I think he'll go off shorter. I think he'll go off more of 8s, 7 to 1 sort of price, because people start to realise that, well, he went off favourite last year. He's off the same mark. Tom has been booked. Yeah, I'm quite keen on him. I think Mr. Wagyu, personally, he's running off 96. Last year he went and won this off 94 and then turned up in the Wokingham carrying a penalty for £5 penalty and finished 4th. Would he get in off 96? It'd be really close, off 96. If he got in off 96 and turned up for the Wokingham, I'd be more keen on him than if he went there under a penalty again for the Wokingham. I think they might be not targeting the race this year, whereas I think Many a Star has been targeted at this race. Obviously, we have to be concerned with Probe. The form, that Arazio form, is really strong form, but he is up another £7 for winning that race off 90, I think that might be getting close to his limit. Whereas I think Many a Star can certainly run a big race off his 87 mark. Finally, the final horse I want to talk about is in the Derby. Who am I going to go for? So, I wasn't as fussed with Arrest's form at Chester, to be honest. Obviously, we highlighted Arrest last year when he was beaten in that maiden by Nostrum and Golden Speech. And I said on the day, I believed Arrest was just as good as Nostrum. Arrest has obviously gone on to do well. He's won a novice race, 2 novice races and that Group 3. I thought he was workmanlike beating Adelaide River. And I don't think Adelaide River is anywhere near the best of the Aidan O'Brien horses. And I think Arrest is there to be taken on. Military Order, another one I highlighted last season. I like the horse. I think his form beating Wapiro was good in the Derby trial. It was on the all-weather. I would want to have seen something on better ground, personally, on the turf. Agustin Rodin. So he could be anything still. But can you take that price, 7-2, about a horse who bombed out in the soft ground guineas? Now, it might have been the soft ground. I don't believe that was his running. I do think he is one of the big dangers to the selection I'm going to have. The selection I'm going to go for is Passenger. Passenger finished 3rd in the Dante, behind the Foxes and behind Whitechurch, dead heating with Continuous. If he had got a clear run, Passenger wins that and wins that 2 lengths. Passenger wins that 2 lengths and is favourite, if not second favourite. I honestly believe it. I think with a clear run, Passenger would have won. And I think the only doubt with him, obviously he has a little bit of lack of experience, but I thought he travelled so well in the Dante against horses with much more experience that I think with a clear run, he goes very, very close. Obviously, Connections won it last year, or the trainer and owner won it last year with Desert Crown. I think Passenger could be one that could certainly back that up for them and they could win 2 on the trot. I'm quite a fan of Passenger, to be honest. I thought that effort was very, very good in the Dante. So there are my selections for tomorrow. Let's go over them. Alligator Alley and Mockatil in the dash. Balance Play in the 1 mile 2 handicap. Halifon to go 1 place better than his nose second. Many a Star to prove last year was just a blip in this race. And Passenger in the Derby. Hopefully Richard Kingscote can be a Passenger all throughout the race and then ask for an effort in the final furlong and kick away. So there's my thoughts. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great weekend and let's hope for lots of winners.